D. Villarreal, being joined by Paul F. Villarreal here. And we are talking about the debate. We are having a immediate reaction here after the debate. We both watched it separately. I don't know what Paul's comments are. We kind of talked briefly on the phone while we did this. Let's just get right into it. Bringing Paul F. Villarreal in right now. Paul, I've got my comments. What's your take on this? What's your initial reaction? I know we kind of have kind of compared notes really quickly and we sort of agreed, but I mean, I don't know your full reaction. Go ahead and give it to us.
Well, let me first just say I don't see this on Twitter, so I don't know if we're live streaming it there or not. But look, I thought it was a really good debate. It was actually exceeded my expectations considerably.
I agree.
So I'll have to give credit to Tim Walz, because I think most people that know JD Vance, and there's plenty of people who don't know him, but the people who do know him realize how good he is at debating and rhetoric. The question was could Tim Walz be able to kind of be a partner in this? And he was able to do that, in my opinion. So I thought it was actually overall really good. And I give credit to CBS, although I thought that they were slanted in their moderation, but not ridiculously so,
right. Not
cartoonishly so, the way that ABC was. So I thought overall it was a good production.
Yeah, I think it was very good. And I think that, I definitely give the edge to JD Vance. I think some of the questions and Margaret Brennan one time, the little quick fact check. And then, and that's like JD Vance had to check her. It's like, I thought we weren't doing fact checks. And I thought their mics were supposed to be muted. You had Tim Walz coming in a couple times, but actually the crosstalk I thought was good and was effective. I think that both did a good job, honestly. Like you said, I mean, that was my impression as well. I thought that, of course, my bias, being conservative and supporter of President Trump and everything like that, the politics of joy, the campaign of joy, it's just so silly and vapid. I think that, Vance did a good job of always answering the question. He would get in his points, he would answer, he would counter, he would, put in the talking points as well, but he would always answer the question. I think that they try to line up some questions and line up some, potentially some rhetorical traps. And he was able to evade those. I mean, he's just so skilled. Like someone said, and I think it was Kayleigh McEnany when she was talking to someone. Vance has done over 100 interviews. And this guy was already unflappable. I mean, the dude is on point. I mean, but really my takeaway, my bottom line on this was, this is what we should have been having the whole time. We should have been having policy debates like this the entire time. We still don't know what the policies of a Harris-Walz administration really would be. Not in any great detail. Number one. Number two, you see the juxtaposition, the sort of comparison of the access and availability of the Trump Vance campaign versus the Harris-Walz campaign. I mean, Harris with the FEMA thing, just basically just up and left. We'll blow past reporters all the time without answering questions. And really, that's my main takeaway here. Honestly, it's a little bit maybe not, I don't want to say counterintuitive, but I mean, it's more of and I'm not trying to be tricky or clever, but it just kind of hit me. I'm like, honestly, in my opinion, Tim Walz lost this debate. Not because he was outclassed by JD Vance, because I expected that. Tim Walz actually did pretty well. Now, he did some weird, funny faces and some mannerisms that I don't know. I don't know what's going on with this. I mean, I'm not alleging anything. I'm not trying to, I don't want to get down. No offense to anyone. I don't even want to name names. I don't want to, there's other people that characterize and have said some things, and I'm not trying to do anything like that. It's just, I think, look, I'm someone that's expressive and I have my own style. We all have our own styles. Tim Walz's style is Tim Walz's style. I'm just going to leave it there. But I don't want to, I'm not even commenting in any way about that. What I want to say is this. The thing that Tim Walz did and why he lost the debate is he upstaged Kamala Harris. He dramatically upstaged Kamala Harris. If you look at Tim Walz's performance versus Kamala Harris, you've got to come away thinking, why couldn't Kamala Harris do that? And really, this is the biggest problem that Kamala Harris is going to have. Vice President Harris is going to have. Let me show the appropriate respect. I don't want to say there's no there, but there is, going back to the Dick Cheney days, right? There is a massive gravitas problem. And everyone's, not everyone, that's too much. A lot of people at a lot of different levels, from the casual observer, the non-observer, all the way up to the political experts, are feeling that. And when you see this, you could see maybe now why she didn't pick, Governor Shapiro, because she could have really been outclassed then. It's almost like you've got a Super Dan Quayle problem, but it's like flipped, where you see what I'm saying, Paul? And I'm going to turn right back over to you. Let me just finish this point real quick. Sorry, but I definitely want you to come in here. You cannot have the top of the you have over a month to go, and people are like, where's the beef? To use an old, Wendy's, commercial type of stuff. There's just not enough substance and not enough gravitas. I'm not trying to punk out Kamala Harris, and this isn't anything about anything. Okay, I mean, I don't try to confuse it and flip it and misdirect it. I mean, you could have Susan Rice, Secretary Clinton, you could have Jean Kirkpatrick, Condoleezza Rice. There are so many super capable women out there, and this is what I told Paul earlier today. It is what it is. Kamala Harris it's like Denny Green. Kamala Harris is the team we thought she was 5 months ago, 2 months ago, before this whole hot swap. She didn't have a lot of respect, in my opinion. Now, like I said, I think she's kind of interesting. Like, I could hang out with her personally. I think she's fine. I think she's pretty personable. I'd much rather hang out with Kamala Harris than I would from a lot of other politicians, honestly. But I don't want her to be president, not just because I don't agree with her politically. Obviously, that's the main thing. But because we're in a position right now, we're in a situation of dire, natural disasters. We've got war out there and foreign conflicts and stuff like that. We just had this whole thing with Iran, super scary. I have family in Israel. It's extremely scary. We have a terrible situation with the border. We have terrible situation. We've got issues with the economy. We have so many different issues, Paul. And now you're left with Kamala Harris, who's basically running from reporters who didn't have anything close to this kind of performance in a debate. And you've got her running mate, Tim Walz, that showed that there is a level of competency, that there's a stature gap here within her own ticket. Do you agree with me, or am I just off my rocker?
I totally agree with you. And you didn't know this, but I made a tweet during the debate that said, if Tim Walz were on the top of the ticket, this might be a different race.
Wow.
That basically exactly what you're saying right there. And you really saw it tonight. I totally agree with you. And I think that that's really the weakness of the ticket, and the weakness of kind of how Kamala Harris comes off as a public figure, and instead avoiding interviews and different things. Now, I just want to say this on 2 quick points. I agree with you that JD Vance won the debate. If you scored this debate on points, I think JD Vance wins, even though I thought the questions were not in his favor. Like, they weren't on the subjects that were in his best wheelhouse. However, I thought that Vance got him on the Minnesota abortion law. I thought he clearly won that point, and Walz didn't want to talk about it. And I think that to be fair, the moderators got Walz on the thing about being in Hong Kong for Tiananmen Square, which didn't happen. So those 2 things I thought.
I was surprised he asked that. I
was very surprised about that. But what now I want to say to you, and the person that I've always compared Vance with is Kayleigh McEnany, who is a Harvard Law School graduate. And of course, Vance being a Yale Law School graduate. As a Berkeley Law School graduate, the training that you have to go through to be a lawyer, talking about rhetoric, Socratic method, thinking logically, making arguments. That's one of the reasons, the training, why JD Vance is so good at this. But obviously, so he's got the combination of the training and the skills and the learning, plus clearly a high IQ individual. But you can talk about what you have to learn as a lawyer just to prepare yourself for debating situations.
Yeah, I mean, the Socratic method, you do moot court, you do all kinds of different things. He went to Yale Law School, widely regarded for, my entire, lifetime at professional graduate school level and above as the #1 law school in the world. I applied to all kinds of different law schools. I got into almost all the top 20 law schools. Yale was one that I didn't apply to because at the time, and it still is the case, a lot of people go there if they want to be like judges or academics. My old, advisor from Berkeley Law School, John Yu, went there, or politicians. And I got to tell you,
most people know John Yu.
Yeah, absolutely. And
most conservatives know John Yu.
Absolutely. And I got to tell you that, looking at this, and listen, I mean, I ended up at the best job, and I could have got Wilson Sonsini and in Silicon Valley and doing exactly what I want to do, helping high tech companies and venture capital, all that, which is where JD Vance went there, and David Sachs, went there, and David Sachs went to Chicago Law School. That was a place that I got in with a scholarship, and a little bit known as more of a conservative law and economics came out of there, and I'm a law and economics savant. But I got to tell you, I should have applied to Yale Law School because, I mean, if you look at Vivek Ramaswamy, if you look at JD Vance, I mean, you are just seeing ridiculous capabilities coming out of there. JD Vance's wife. I mean, there's just I mean, wow. You have to be impressed with this. So listen, let's spin it forward. What impact do you think this is going to have on the race? I mean, I don't think that debates have done too much this time around, number one. And number two, I think vice presidential debates have typically never done anything. But I got to tell you, I really think that if anything comes out of this, there's two things that come out of this that might be a little bit more lasting. The one is what I already said, which is, I really feel like this doesn't make Kamala Harris looks good. It just, at this point, looks like she's hiding. You've had Charlemagne criticize her. You had the Trump ad with the football stuff. She's just blowing by reporters. She's not on the ground there in North Carolina or Georgia or anything like that with Hurricane Helene, or here in Florida. By the way, my Governor DeSantis, doing a heck of a job with Hurricane Helene, also sending supplies out there. Trump has already been there on the ground. You've got JD Vance, who's been doing the campaign, obviously preparing for this and stuff. You've got Samaritan's Purse and some other people, Franklin Graham out there doing some stuff. I feel like and I'm not trying to overblow it, but I just feel like, the impression I got is, why come Kamala Harris couldn't do that? That's number one. Number two is, I thought they hit the January 6th and all that stuff. I feel like Vance did such a good job of answering things that it just took the edges off a lot of those Democratic attacks. And that's the thing. And I also think that Vance did a good job of saying, hey, Kamala Harris is for censorship, and talking about that. And I think that's a very salient message right now. A lot of people, particularly, we're live on Rumble right now, and we're going to repost this to X, and you're big on X and YouTube. A lot of people on social media, a lot of the young kids, and you're seeing, a lot of young people, particularly younger men, are really supporting Trump. And in fact, Trump, you've even had MSNBC, I believe, Steve Kornacki, the Hispanic support. You're seeing, the minority support. You're seeing a lot of support for Trump, and a lot of people, particularly when it comes to younger people online, free speech is a big issue, here. So I just that's really my point. Is I think there's two main things that I think might come out of this. One is, I think Vance did a great job of answering the attacks from the mainstream media and the Democrats to soften the image and seem very reasonable. And I think that Tim Walz is making Kamala Harris look less serious, less like a leader. I don't know what you want to call it. I mean, listen, I'm not trying to be a punk. I mean, I'm nobody. She's vice president, but I just don't feel like, I feel like Trump is closing strong. And I feel like, if anything, Kamala Harris is losing stature and not stepping up in this final month-ish, month plus a week. Agree or disagree? And I think this debate did not help her in that respect, Paul.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the two things that come out of this, three things that come out of this debate are: one, Tim Walz raised his stock. Maybe that helps him as a surrogate, because I don't know if he was really being taken seriously before this. And I think that this definitely helps him in that regard. Number two, it does hurt Kamala Harris in just exactly in the way you're saying, which is, you're getting outshined here.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that this was a pretty dramatic instance of that because it's on a big stage and because, you know, she doesn't do a lot of interviews. So I agree with you about that. Number 3, JD Vance is a star.
Oh my gosh.
You can see that. This guy, I wrote a tweet. This guy is a political prodigy.
Yeah.
He's 40 years old.
Oh my God.
And you can just see the capability there is through the roof. You mentioned.
Yeah, go ahead.
You mentioned Vivek. You mentioned Vance. Look, might not like them, but let's give credit to the Clintons. They're both Yale law graduates.
Right.
So it's like, you know, they're turning out pretty high-powered individuals there. So, especially again, and you know, and I'll keep this quick.
No, you're good.
Look, as you said, Vance has a very similar trajectory to you and me.
Yes.
Which is somebody who came from Appalachia. And yes, I consider him an Appalachian, even though where he was in Ohio is like 10 miles away from technical Appalachia. Vance is somebody who came from Appalachia, came from not a lot of stuff, ended up at a high-powered university, and ended up in Silicon Valley. We know that journey. We know that trajectory. It's a very difficult one. He came from circumstances worse than ours.
Yeah. And
look where he's at 40 years old.
Wow.
I don't care who you are or what, you got to respect that.
No disrespect to our parents, and I didn't read Vance's book. I'll take your word for it, but I mean, we had a little bit of a tough ride ourselves. It was not easy.
We did. Yeah, that's true. I'm not. Yeah, no, that's.
But I didn't read his book. I don't know.
That different time.
Yeah, we had a little rough ride ourselves.
Listen,
Appalachia's Appalachia, and the Rust Belt has been torn up, and it's been riddled by opioid epidemics. And you know, the people went. I mean, one of the things I didn't realize, and I did research because I was going to go help my buddy, who's got some stuff, some dealerships up there and stuff like that. And I mean, because you know, and West, we had a family reunion going on in Pittsburgh and stuff like that. And I remember Pittsburgh was a really big city. At one time, I think it had 600, 700,000 people, somewhere close to that. It's down to like 300,000, mid 300,000, 350, 380. I can't remember what it is. I'm like, oh my gosh. And it's just, you know, and of course they're talking about Charleroi, which is Washington County. We grew up in Washington County, you know, and we used to live in Washington and stuff like that and surrounding areas. And it's just, you know, so it's rough stuff. Not to say that Kentucky or other parts of Appalachia. I mean, I went to school in West Virginia. I mean, you know, you would say that, you know, there's people that they call them cricks out there. They'd live on the sides of the cricks and stuff like that. And then the flooding, and it's rough stuff. I mean, when the coal jobs went and the steel mills, you know, jobs went, and the union jobs went, I mean, it's a tough deal. And then listen, I understand that things change and there's progress, but you have to have your government that's working with you and for you. And you have to try to, even one, it's the right thing to do morally. And two, it's the best thing to do from an efficiency standpoint. I mean, you want to, and it's kind of like what Elon Musk was saying of East Germany, West Germany, you know, North Korea, South Korea, of being in different operating systems. You want to help port people over. You don't want to just like, oh, so sorry, learn to code. Well, if you can't learn to code at 60 years old or whatever it is, it doesn't make sense. You have to have things more well planned. I'm kind of going on a little bit of a detour here. But anyway, the point is that yes, I mean, Sachs has had a somewhat similar journey. Definitely JD Vance and us and very much aligned. Somewhat Vivek Ramaswamy. I mean, Vivek Ramaswamy's parents were actually, you know, professionals and very smart, whatever, but grew up in Ohio and stuff like that. Listen, I mean, you're talking, I'm proud of what we've done. I hope we do a lot more. We're definitely not nearly that successful, but I mean, you've seen some, and listen, I guess I'll go with your point. Superstars Vivek Ramaswamy and JD Vance. I push, you know, for JD Vance being the VP pick. I think it's clearly the best pick for VP pick at this point. I think Vivek Ramaswamy is right there and is going to be a big name and is a big name in the Republican Party right now. If that shows you us, Vivek, JD, a bunch of other people, like there's so much talent all over the place. And we need to maximize it here. We need to have, you know, Kamala Harris talked about opportunity economy, but Donald Trump and JD Vance are going to deliver that opportunity economy. And that's what they really need to do. Not so much worrying about like just the coast and just green and like just doing things that make sense. Common sense. JD Vance talked about common sense today, Paul. So I think it was a very good debate. I think that I agree with you. I think Tim Walz did a really good job. I think, you know, his stock went up, if you will. I think that JD Vance is phenomenal, but I think that the comparison is you've got Vance, Walz, Trump, who's then you have Kamala Harris, who I just think by comparison to the other three is not looking that strong. And I think it's going to be a tough thing to pull off the number one spot. But I mean, I think the media and the Democrats are going to try. But I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't surprise me if Kamala Harris is gnashing her teeth out there somewhere. And because it's just like in radio. It's like I've done a lot of media. When you take a vacation, your day off, something like that. You don't want the fill-in to be better than you because maybe people don't want you back after that. And I mean, it's no different than the NFL. Watch out if you're down for a game or two because the backup might just get the starting job. That's not going to happen here. But I think that in the minds of the voters out there, I don't know. I don't think this is good for Kamala Harris. So anyway, final comments from you, Paul.
Yeah, look, I agree with that. I think it was a good overall thing. It's worth watching if you haven't seen it. And I agree with you. I think Vance prevailed, even though I think Walz did a really good job. I don't think there's any clear loser tonight.
I agree with that.
Won. But I agree with you in the sense that there had been a narrative out there. I have seen it that apparently people on the campaign team for Harris were blaming Walz for like how things were going. And that's going to be a lot harder after tonight. And so finally, I'll just say this. Look, JD did what he needed to do tonight, which is I think that Team Trump now is essentially playing defense. I think they feel pretty good about where things are. And I'll just say there's a report out today that basically they turned down an interview with 60 Minutes. You're not turning down interviews if you're behind. So I think that Vance did exactly what he needed to do tonight. And it was just good to watch.
Interesting. Good to watch. No doubt about it. Okay, there you go. That's what we have to say about that. So pretty interesting. And I'd love to hear what your comments are out there. We'd love to hear about that. So anyway, hope everyone's doing well. Our best wishes, thoughts, and prayers go out to everyone affected by the hurricane. It clipped us here in South Florida, but definitely nowhere near the devastation as Northern Florida, Western Florida, Georgia, North Carolina. We hope everyone is our thoughts and prayers go out to everyone and anyone affected by that. So it's still an ongoing situation, and definitely thoughts and prayers go out to the various situations across the world. And again, to my family over there in Israel and everything like that. So, all right. We'll see everyone later. Hope you're all doing well. Looking forward to your comments, and we will see you online, and we'll see you next time. For Paul, I'm John D. Villarreal. Thanks so much for watching. Take care.